What's up, everybody? How's it going? So I just wanted to let you guys all know that for an upload schedule, it's been about a week since I uploaded the episode with Dominic Faria. So for an upload schedule from now on, we're going to about a 2-week period. So every 2 weeks on the Monday, you can look forward to a new episode on either YouTube or SoundCloud. We have that now, so I'll most likely be making some social media posts anyways. If you aren't already familiar with where you can listen to it on, you can follow the links there. But anyways, this episode we have Alex Wozny. Alex Wozny is the co-creator of Faction Comic, which you can check out online and that he links to. He's also an improviser through both the U Auto Improv team and some other forums. And he's probably one of the funniest guys I know. He's got a great sense of humor. He's got a great outlook on life, and we got into some pretty deep shit. So, yeah, give it up for Alex Wozny. Okay, what's up, Wozny? How's it going?
It's going well.
How's your day today?
It's pretty good. I am tired because it's been the first full week of classes, and you go, oh, right, this is what I signed up for.
And you're getting over a cold too.
Yeah, I am. Oh. Thank you for the convenient way of saying it, so that I can blame all of my problems on a cold.
Yeah, just so for anybody listening that's complaining about Wozny's volume or the way that he sounds, it's just because he's sick. Okay, he doesn't sound like that.
Yeah, that's who
Don't
I
be mean.
am. If you attack me, you are attacking a sick person. I'm ready.
Okay, so let's get into it. So I wanted to talk to you today about two main things that really you are the only person that I know that does either of these things. So you are my expert. I trust you completely, and your word is the word of the Lord on both these things.
Bold choice.
So you're an improviser. Is that the right word?
That's the correct
term. So like improv comedy, and you also write a web comic as well too.
Yeah,
both very distinct, but very interesting in their own ways. Yeah. We'll start off with improv first, because I think that's the one that like the most people understand.
Hopefully,
the most.
People have.
Because I know like my first experience with improv was that Drew Carey show. Were you?
Yes. No, not Saturday Night Live. Whose Line is it?
Yeah. Whose Line? That was the only improv that I'd ever seen in my life.
That's fair.
Before watching yours.
Good old Drew Carey. He's the I owe a lot to Drew Carey.
Is he like the person that look
I
up to?
probably saw his stuff first. Yeah. I wouldn't say that I'm like that is my idol of improv, because you meet the people who actually like do it and have taught me. So I've had coaches and instructors who I can really look up to. But I'm thankful to Drew Carey for simply getting people in the door. And he does some great stuff, so I'll give him that.
So how did you get into it? Like, how old were you? Where did you start? When did you start?
So I had a background in theater, and I started doing theater when I was like 10 years old. Yeah, I know. Watch out. I started it. I was in Anne of Green Gables, the musical.
Classic Canadian.
And my mom made me audition, and I was like, Mom, God. But then after that, I was always interested in theater. In grade 10 of school, I learned about the improv team, and I went, I cannot do this. And my mom's like, go do it. And I was like, no way. So I took a year, and I did nothing. I didn't go to any shows or anything. Nice. I left it alone. And then in my grade 11 year, I had my first time where I went. Yeah. And we played a bunch of games, and we did a bunch of scenes, and there was this scene that we had, and it was between me and a good friend of mine, Elena Stallwick. Yeah. And it wasn't funny at all. It was we were playing this game where you adopt each other's poses and stuff, and we were holding each other our arms, just holding each other, and this look of grief just came across both of our faces. Yeah. And we did a scene about someone coming down, a pet being put down. Wow. Which was insane. And I remember I was like, Oh, and I sat down and I apologized. I was like, I am so sorry that I did that. And my coach, who would go on to introduce me to basically everything Terracat, was like, don't ever apologize for what you do on stage because it's valuable in its own way. And ever since that, I've never been that serious in a scene. But it was just this moment where I was like, I felt something, and I had no idea that it was going to go there, but it just came out of me. And we can spend years going, what was wrong with him at that point? But that's sort of how I got involved. I then auditioned for the team. Yeah. I made it, which was insane. We did a class of like 20.
Yeah.
And then in the class you had higher, like the teams that actually went to perform in competitions and duke it out with other high schools. And I got put on a team, which was insane. And then after that, I was just hooked.
It was sold.
Yeah.
That line that you said that your improv teacher said to you was just a quintessential like theater
100%.
Person mentality.
100%.
I love it. Just you can do no wrong on the stage. It's your art.
Well, and there's a bit of hokiness to it. There's a bit of moments where you go, okay, but especially for someone who's starting, it's so important to just say, I'm here for you, and you can do no wrong.
Yeah.
It's something that like in the first few months, I was super anxious all the time and like, is this good? But a big thing we learn is this idea of like failure is fun.
Yeah.
So it's even like when we're like running exercises and stuff and someone makes a mistake, we all like cheer. It's not like, ha ha, you fool. It's like, yay! Which is so weird, but it kind of works. And one of my favorite things is just when I'm seeing myself or other improvisers failing is just to embrace it and just go with it.
It's so funny because even like from what I've seen perform, even some of the moments that like are a little cringe, it's just, it makes it even funnier because you can see them just floundering and they're trying so hard to like bring it back and like collect themselves, but it's just spilling out.
And it's this idea of you don't want to like totally mug at the audience.
Yeah.
But you need to read them, and that's something I feel that I've always been okay at, is being able to get a preliminary read on someone. So with my audience, I'm good at knowing, okay, they're feeling that something is off, and if you give them like a little wink to acknowledge it, it just dilutes the tension so much. Everyone kind of relaxes again, which is important because otherwise they're stuck there.
So for the people that don't know, let's just go over like the basic format of an improv show, because I didn't know before, but like for the majority of people, I would assume that they know that like you guys take suggestions from the audience in order to craft your scene.
Yeah.
But then like there's different games that you guys play too.
Yeah, so people do whatever they want. Just the core of improv is this idea of just like making things up on the spot. It's my personal belief that in general that means asking for a suggestion, which is a form of a guarantee. So we go to the audience and we say, give us an object. And we take something from the audience to prove that this isn't something that we all went behind stage and went, it'd be really funny if we did this. Partially because it's not funny. The people who do sketch are extremely talented and have to work extremely hard. And improvisers and sketch writers and sketch actors often work together. You know, but they're two very different ways of performing and doing things. So that's the basis of improv. But a show is anything. We oftentimes there's some sort of format. If you're doing short form, which is like scenes that are about 5 minutes long max. You often play games, so you put restrictions like we have this game called Touch to Talk where you can't talk unless you're being touched or touching someone else. It's just a way of adding variety. But then we also, with one of my troops, Outtake Improv, we do genre long form. So we do some short form stuff. But the basis of our show is doing a 45-minute improvised scene in the style of a John Hughes movie or in the style of Riverdale or in the style of anything like that.
So do you guys have any, like, the 45-minute one is just like, that's crazy to think about, that you can just make things up for 45 minutes and somehow in some way kind of make it cohesive. Maybe sometimes you lose it a little bit, but then you bring it back just for the finale. Like, do you guys have any preparation at all together as a group? Like, because like, if you know the theme night that you're going into it, do you have like, we should bring up the like for example, the John Hughes film, like, let's watch all the John Hughes films and see where we can maybe make some things funny? Or is it just, that's it, we're doing this, don't come prepared, and we're making it up completely?
It depends on the group. With something like genre-based stuff, we generally meet and we watch a movie and we talk about some of the tropes, and we often write up a like one-page sheet just with like a bunch of info, just to be like, here's the important beats, and we often don't hit half of them. But it's just good to have everyone on the same page, because some genres it's easier, but with something like a John Hughes film, you don't want to have one person doing 16 Candles, one person doing Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and one person doing The Breakfast Club. It gets muddled. So we have talks like that. And in general, I'm someone who's big into practice, which sounds counterintuitive because it's improvised and we're making it up on the spot. But it's creating that team dynamic. The best improv I've ever seen hasn't been because of like being the best improvisers. You know, it's never like, oh, these are the best of the best. They're the best of the best because they have an amazing team and they work together well. And so there are certain people who are really good at taking the stage and really good at character work and sort of leading a scene. And there are others who are very good at setting up a plot and keeping track of things, and making sure that everyone feels supported and that they're adding to the world and the environment. And it's when people come together and learn to work together, that's when things get really good. And a lot of it just comes down to trust. Because it is terrifying to go up on stage with people who you know, but might not necessarily be best friends with. And have your scene and your work basically be determined by them. If someone wants to screw you over, they can do it very easily. And it very rarely happens. Well, it's never happened to me, and I'd be very surprised if it happened to anyone. But still is, it's a possibility. Challenging time. So it's just learning this sort of teamwork. And I find one of my favorite people to do improv with is a guy named Van Terrio back in Red Deer, Alberta. He's now moved to Edmonton. And he and I basically hung out every day for like 3 hours and just made jokes. And it meant that when we were on stage together, we were just on the same page like that. And it's huge. So it's a mixture of being good friends with people and learning a lot about people. It's also just practicing and developing those habits. There's all sorts of weird drills we do where we're like yelling and running and playing weird games. And there's this crazy one. Well, it's not crazy. It's everyone stands in a circle and closes their eyes and looks down, and the group has to count to 20, but no one can repeat a number or say like 1, 2, 3, 4. And if anyone speaks at the same time, you start over. And so at the start of the year, it takes you like an hour. And my coach would just be like, try again.
I've played that's like a famous like camp game as well too, because it's just like when kids have too much energy, it just drains them. It's
insane. But
like the mental capacity to keep going and working at that's another huge thing too, because like the form of comedy that I am most familiar with is stand-up, and stand-up for the majority of it is just you by yourself on a stage with a microphone, and if you bomb, it's just you that's bombing. Like there's no one else that's responsible for it. Whereas
which is also terrifying in its own way.
Whereas in improv, depending on the number of people that you have on a scene, you are relying on someone else to carry the dialogue that they have for that particular moment.
Yeah.
And if they start to flounder, how do you think that improv groups react, like, when that's happening on stage, when they see that, like, one of their team members is struggling? Is it just the trust that they can get it back, or do you, like, take them off of it and start speaking, or is it like a touch and go kind of scenario?
It's interesting. It's this idea of trust, because if I trust my teammates, and I know that if something goes wrong, I'm going to be backed up and helped, I'm going to take bigger risks and risk floundering more, which is a good thing, because I don't want to say, oh, every idea is good, because if you're doing certain things, don't be punching down towards marginalized groups or anything. But beyond that, I would say any idea has merit, and you can, as a team, you should be able to back up and reverse and change how the scene is going. So I've never... It's usually very smooth. I know when I've been floundering, it's something as simple as the other person jumping in and tapping you out, or adding a new character, or giving you direction, saying, oh, this guy actually is secretly a bear. And you're like, all right, that works. So it's finding whatever solution you can get. And the biggest thing I learned, I think, I'm not sure who originally said it. I heard this from my coach, and it's been my general philosophy of improv. I'm using air quotes right now for all of our dear listeners. My philosophy of improv is this idea that my coach told me, and she said, the best improvisers are the ones who aren't noticed, who don't stand out, but make the rest of their team stand out. And that was a very big shift for me. And I think for a lot of people, when you first are starting improv, the idea is make jokes, like, be funny, make people laugh. It's often about just making sure everyone else looks like they're geniuses. You know, and that's when things work out. And you have to do that, because otherwise you might as well be up there on your own. And there's merit to that. There's merit to great sketch artists who do monologues or solo scenes, and there's merit to stand-up. But the joy of improv is seeing these 8 brains, or however many are on a team, all connect for 4 minutes and just hit this level of, like, it's like you're all on the same page, and it looks like something that everyone prepared well in advance. And the greatest reward is when you finish a scene and people go up to you and go, so how much of that was planned? Or, like, did you have this scripted out? And you're like, no, I'm an improviser. It's the one moment where you get to brag a little.
I think, like, improv is just a powerful tool for group problem solving.
It
is. I might be totally making this up, but I believe what distinguishes human intelligence and why humans are the smartest animals on the earth is our ability to multitask in groups. And that's really demonstrated through improv, and the ability that you guys have, like you said, however many people that you go up there with, you guys are a group, and you guys go out there and you guys tackle the problem head on together, which is, it's amazing to see happen. So I encourage anybody that has never seen improv to go out and see improv. Go watch Wozny stuff. But it's just the ability to look at a situation that has been created from an audience. It's just like looking at a problem that you as a group are attempting to solve and make humorous for everyone else to then enjoy. Yeah. And it's just all of you guys working together and just putting in what I think is an insurmountable amount of effort to make something funny out of nothing, because you're basing it on nothing. But you use a lot of things that people have found funnier in the past, and you guys connect it just to these seemingly random topics, and it's just it is a sight to behold.
Well, I appreciate that.
To watch it happen.
And I still have those moments where I'm watching improv and I go, holy hell, how are they doing this? But it's a whole other experience when you're on stage and you have this moment where everything clicks and you go, how did this happen? Like, how did we get here? And it's so nice because you're doing it with an audience, and the amount of energy that the audience gives you is so essential to the craft. And it's so different going from practice where you like have your other teammates sort of watching versus having a crowd of 100 people all there, and it gives you this sort of like runner's high where you have this moment where like things just click and you're like, people like this, and it's insane. So yeah, that feeling doesn't go away of just seeing people come together to make art on the spot.
Do you feel that, like, as a genre, the popularity of improv is growing or is it shrinking? Because for me, I have no idea of the popularity of improv, like, as a comedic source. But like, do you feel that like more people are getting into it, less people are getting into it?
I think that more people are getting into it. In general, we're getting better at marketing ourselves.
Yeah.
A lot of it depends on the community you're in. Because there are some places with a lot of improv, there's some with a little, there's some with none. And a lot of people's experiences are shaped based on their local improv. There are people who, and I'm not going to name any places, but there are people who hate improv because they've gone and seen stuff in their hometown or their city, and it's been terrible. And not just in the sense of like bad improv, because I find that always hard when someone's like, it was bad. You're like, fair, but it's complicated and it's improv. But especially when we have people who are performing in ways that are taking advantage of marginalized groups and things like that, it can turn someone off it forever. And so I'm very lucky that I'm in Ottawa, and I was before performing in Red Deer and Edmonton, where we had very inclusive and funny as all get out communities, because it does shape it. A lot of people who come and see my shows are starting for the first time and are giving it a shot, but there's a lot of people who have never seen it, or who have seen it with other people, and gone, I liked that, and give it another shot. And I hope that by bringing people in and having them come to their first show and it's with me, I hope that I'm also exposing them to this bigger community. Another thing that's really helpful right now is I think improv's getting better at developing for the digital age, which has been here for a long time, and we've taken our time. But there's some great work being done online. Things like Whose Line Is It? You know, that was huge for improv, and it's important to showcase it on a less localized level sometimes. Another great resource that's out right now is Improv for Humans by Matt Besser. It's his own
powerful plug.
Yeah, it's his own improv podcast where he brings on people from all around the scene. So he's had Amy Poehler show up. He's had, because he created one of the biggest improv troupes called the UCB, which is the Upright Citizens Brigade in New York. And he did that with Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, and Matt Walsh. If I got that wrong, I am done.
Because I like do a lot of comedians even that word comedians is like when you say comedians, you just automatically think of stand up or like even sometimes I guess your mind might also go to like sitcoms too. But do a lot of people who make things funny, do they do improv? Like, do a lot of these famous people that make you laugh, do they like get starts in improv, or do they just do it for fun, or what do you think?
Quite a few of them do, especially in sketch. And it might not be that they got started in it, but generally improv is a bit more accessible to jump into, which is helpful. But a lot of people, especially on shows like Saturday Night Live or like 22 Minutes, they start in improv and often develop their sketches through improv. So a great example of that here in Canada is Second City in Toronto. And Second City does a lot of sketch work.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is inspired by things they did in improv. So they do a scene and they go, that was really good. People really liked that at our last show. Mm-hmm. Let's workshop it and turn it into a sketch. And that's really sweet. So for a lot of people, it's their chance to like try things. And I often I write as well, which we'll talk about later. But I often, after a show, I have all of these ideas that I have to like go home and write down and be like, here's what I'm going to work on now.
Yeah, because I've listened to a lot of famous people that have been on sitcoms, and they talk about the power of improvising lines.
Yeah,
like it's a little bit different improvising a scene, but just improvising lines and how some of like the funniest moments in a show can be in that improvisation that they have. Like especially if your writers on a show let you have free will and let you make things and like let the actors come in and talk to the writers and the writers vice versa, saying like if you made this face, it would be way funnier as opposed to the face that you're doing now. But I think that's really important when you're in a space and you're reading a line, the vibe that you get from making up a line saying, wow, this would be 10 times funnier if especially if the mood is like this, and if we said this, it would be way funnier than what we had written down, which isn't like, it isn't a problem of like bad writing. It's just a problem of like a really famous line is reading the room and getting to know like what your audience is and what mood you're trying to set for the following scene.
Exactly. Well, and that's true. Just any form of live performance helps you with that, and you learn that. Improv, especially because you're directly interacting and you're yelling out to them saying, hey, can I get this or whatever? But even for writers, a lot of them have this do improv. A classic example is like Tina Fey, who wrote 30 Rock, and I'm not sure what she's working on right now. I should know that. But
she did that Saturday Night Live piece with the sheet cake that a lot of people got upset about.
So maybe I shouldn't talk about how much I appreciate Tina Fey. But I'm gonna defend her here.
I thought it was funny, but like I could see the points of what some people were making.
I have no comment on the sheet caking piece. But Tina Fey is a good improviser, and so she often that's influenced her work in other things. So I writers are extremely talented, and I'm always very aware of being like, oh, I can help out, because often they've got their stuff figured out. But it is good just to help you perform better and to help inform your performance throughout your work.
And it's great. Like if you've been working on something for a long time, it's tough to get out of like the rigidness that you've put around your ideas, because like especially when you care about something a lot, as like even I will with this, like receiving criticism, I'm very happy to receive it, but there is that initial sting, which means that like it doesn't mean that I don't want people to say like it would be better if you did this with your podcast, or it would be better if you did this, which is, it's fine to accept, but there is that little bit of,
it's hard,
where you're just like, no, I did this by myself, I want to do this by myself, and I don't need any of your help. But truth be told, like I do need their help, because they're people that are listening, and there's only a certain way of looking at it that I can do by myself, and I need other people to tell me what works better for them, because they might have the same idea as long as with 20 other people that are listening as well too.
Well, and it's a lesson I learned in theater. I was doing we were doing a small project, and at the end we got notes. All of our other students put up their hands and say, oh, I was thinking about this, and my gut reaction, like anybody's, was to go, well, that's going to change, or I'm working on that. I know. But I got this really great note from my teacher at the time, Trina Penner, and she said, just say thank you and move on, because there's no point. And it's good to just say thank you and then reflect on it later. Because in the moment, you think that you have done the best thing in the world, and then the next day you wake up and you're like, Oh, I was not that good today.
A little rough.
And it's tough because there's going to be times where people are completely uninformed and they're just angry and they just want to get a rise out of you.
Yeah.
But just having that blanket response that you immediately shoot out is just easy. And it lets you make them feel like they've been heard, even if at the end you go, that guy was so dumb. Whatever it is.
Another good one that I love is thank you for your feedback. I love, I like whenever you make a complaint to like a company or something like that, and God bless anybody, and like that's what my mom does. My mom's in customer care, so God bless any people that have to deal.
God bless Lucas's mom.
Yeah.
Shout outs.
Anybody that has to deal with people that are upset or complaining, and like obviously some of these complaints are valid. So it's like important to get them out there so that the company can do better. But the classic line is just thank you for your feedback.
Thank you for your feedback.
Because you can't just yell back and like tell them that they're stupid because the customer is always right, even if they're wrong.
Well, it's something.
They're right.
It's in stand up especially, like they have to get good at dealing with hecklers.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's one of those things that I'm like, get me out of there, because I've had a few times where like people have gone rowdy. Oh yeah. Because people like to have fun, and it's very rarely directed at me, but like at other people sometimes it comes out, and if I'm on stage I will like give that person daggers and make sure that they know that like
you are not welcome here.
You are not welcome to my team. Leave my family alone. Which is part of the fun. I haven't had to deal with it too bad, though, so I can't complain that much.
So, overall, do you consider yourself a comic? Like that's a very loaded word, and, like, anybody that writes comedy or anybody that does stand-up or is in a sitcom or is a writer, like, a lot of times they say, like, no, that's such a dumb word, and I hate the word comedian, because, like that just means stand-up. A lot of the times, and like that's what comes to mind when people say that. But do you consider yourself a comedian? Are you, Alex, a comedian?
If I like look from a distance, maybe.
Yeah.
I just go with the term improviser, because that's what I mainly do. I do a small tad of stand up, but not really. And I like repping improv and trying to spread it. Because I do think, just in general, it's something that's been so helpful for me outside of the actual performance, just as a person. And I meet all of these people who have really learned from it and who have grown because of it. So I like to bear that flag with me. But I suppose you have to be funny to be a comedian, and I'm not.
But you
sure.
are funny. I think
know,
you're funny. A lot of people
moments.
think you're funny.
That's true. That's true. No, yeah.
You shouldn't be so humble. You should
just
plaster it all over the place. I am funny. If you don't think I'm funny, then the problem is with you.
You're the wrong one. If you don't like my joke, you're terrible. Don't. My jokes are terrible, but my improv's okay. So that's why I hold on to in the dark nights. As I'm laying in my bed, in my mattress on the floor, and I look up outside my window and hear the light sound of rave music, and I go, at least I'm okay at improv. and that's the game, folks.
Do you want to take a break, or do you want to keep going?
Let's keep going.
Okay. So we'll move on to your comic, which is the other thing that you do that is extraordinary and that I've never heard of before. So you write a webcomic.
Yes.
So give a brief synopsis of what your webcomic is about.
So my webcomic is called Faction. And here's the moment where half of the listeners are going to go, oh, God. It's a comic about virtual reality, and my pitch is always, Faction is a comic about virtual reality and the people who spend their time in it. So it's a comic set a ways into the future.
Powerful quote.
Thank you. I write. It's set a few years in the future, and there's this massively popular virtual reality game called Emulate, but spelt with an M and a U.
Wow.
And that's it. There's no E at the start, guys. And so it's looking at what happens when virtual reality really takes off, because I've always been interested.
Which might not be too far away.
Not too far away. Honestly, I when we first started writing it, it was like 4 years ago or 5 years ago, and like I think the Oculus Rift had just come out, and like I was like, virtual reality's dumb, but I was like, kind of interesting. But I've always been interested in the way people who game a lot, how they are influenced by that in real life. So like I never really got into World of Warcraft or anything, because
powerful World of Warcraft.
I had to be careful. When you have a voice like this, you gotta be careful with World of Warcraft. But I played a bit of RuneScape when I was like 10 years old.
Classic.
I hear that you're still you're dipping your toes in the water.
It's something that passes the time.
You know what? That's fair. Moving on. Let's both hide that in our closets and never talk about it again. But I've always been interested by the communities that come out of that, because when I was young, a close friend of mine moved away for a year. And I didn't know it would be for a year. I thought he was gone forever. But we would it was Tate Gingrich who came by to our
Mike Tate.
And we basically managed to stay friends through playing games. So every weekend, we'd be playing Left 4 Dead, or we'd be playing frickin' League of Legends or whatever it was, and it was just our chance to catch up. And so when he came back, it was like we hadn't missed a beat. Whereas there are people who left and who I called, but eventually that's tough to keep up. So I really enjoy seeing the impact of video games on society. So Faction is a lot about that. So there's this talk about the impact of video games in the game, because it's a game where there's tens of thousands of players, and they're all on separate teams, and they're all fighting and all of that. And how do people get influenced by that? So there's all different groups. The main faction we follow is Red Faction. They're getting in a war with Green Faction that they're losing. And what impact does that have on people? What does it mean when you're on the losing team, and the thing that you were playing for fun now just makes you feel like a dweeb? So it's a lot about that. It's generally, I can vouch for it. I think it's quite good. But it's just about the idea of, okay, how does it affect a big group, and how does it affect individuals? So the main character of the comic is a professional streamer, and is sponsored by a bunch of companies. So they put logos on her, in professional sports, and she gets paid. And we're seeing that now. You're seeing that with streamers on Twitch, and esports.
Huge, almost in the Olympics. Almost. It was close.
It was close. That would be wild.
In terms of the sanctity of sport, I can understand why they don't want to put it in the Olympics. But if the Olympics wants to make any sort, because the popularity of the Olympics has been dying down. The Rio one was terrible. All the shit that went down in there.
Oh, Rio was a nightmare, and we all knew it was gonna be a nightmare. But
so a lot of people gave them shit for it and didn't end up watching it, right? So it wasn't as good as the 2012 one, or even the one that we had it in Vancouver. So the popularity has been dwindling. But if they were to add esports in there, the viewership, I think would just.
Well, it's insane the communities that grow around that stuff. You have thousands of people all just watching this stream, and they're betting money.
Oh yeah.
I used to have a friend who bet hundreds of dollars on matches of Counter-Strike, and I was like, what has happened? Where did we go to get here? So it's becoming to that point where when we first started writing this, it was this is crazy, and now I'm still is a ways away. But people the average person is beginning to care about this. and it's exciting. And I don't know if it should be in the Olympics or whatever, but they have a community now.
Yeah.
You know, it's insane. Companies are donating millions of dollars to esports. I think with Dota 2, they had a prize pool of like $3 million or something. And you're like, how did this happen?
I watched a Vice documentary a little while ago, and they were following some South Korean gamers who played either Dota or StarCraft is the other big one
classic.
too. And just the way that they have to take care of their body is very similar to that of the athlete. Not in like the physical performance, but in keeping, like, they have to watch out for arthritis already, because like their hands are already completely fucked.
Well,
just like going around with a mouse, like smacking on keys.
It takes a toll, and you have these people who it's a tough field, because by the time you're 25, your reflexes aren't what they used to be, and you're done. Yeah. And it's true in sports too. A lot of people retire early, but for some people they're 23, and they just aren't as fast as they used to be, and it's over. And it's interesting because like the care put into some of these athletes, especially on like professional teams or whatever, is insane. Like they put them all in a house together, and they have a personal chef and a maid and a fitness consultant.
It's like just like an athletic camp. Like if you were to go to something like that, and just they would have instead of computers everywhere for you to practice, it would be a basketball net, or it would be a hockey rink, or something like that. So just
it's
like
cool.
Yeah. But to get back to your comic, so
we're on the video game tangent. We can get on that forever.
It's you and two other people, correct? Three other people.
Yeah.
Okay, and you and powerful Alex Palm.
Yes, shout-outs
are the writers.
My boy. Yes.
Okay.
So me and Alex Palm are the writers and the creators. So we did the initial stuff, and now we write all of our script. I build the website. Which is not a great accomplishment, but I built a website, which was okay. And then me and Alex both swap off on social media and work on different platforms. So we generally handle community matters.
So then the other two are artists?
Yes. So we have our primary artist, Heliotrope, who is a very interesting character, and I'm so lucky to have found him and get to work with him. And he does all of the artwork for the pages you see. And so he storyboards, inks, and colors them all. And then we have a concept artist, Jordan, who is Alex's friend from camp. They used to both be counselors at a camp together, which is insane.
Small world.
And she joined the project, and she's great. So a lot of these iconic designs were created by her when you see some of these characters. And she also helps us with some promo material. So we did this comic about the one of the platforms we host on. They have this tipping feature where you can buy virtual coins and then tip them. And so she did a little comic about that, which is great. So go check it out.
So what's it like? Because again, the parallels to improv are striking here. The working in a team, and the work in this sort of way, the work is very much divided in a very clear manner. Because you and Palm handle the writing, while Heliotrope and Jordan handle more of the artwork stuff. So how does it feel like getting everyone on the same page and working in a team? Is it tough?
It's hard. Thank God for Skype, and thank God for Google Docs and all of those things, because as it stands right now, no single member of the team lives within an hour drive of any other member of the team. Because
you're in Ottawa, and
I'm in Ottawa.
Palm's in Alberta.
Sylvan Lake in Alberta. Jordan is in Grand Prairie, Alberta, which is quite a few hours north. And then Heliotrope lives somewhere in British Columbia that will not be named.
But it's like the distance is incredible. So you can't just, a lot of times with group projects, it's like, we'll just meet at the library on the weekend and go over it.
You
but
don't have that.
It's like, okay, you in a different time zone. When are you available? Oh, I can only Skype for 30 minutes. Oh, but I can only Skype after he leaves. So
and it's nice. I was home for the summer. I was
Yeah.
back in Red Deer for 2 months, and Alex after work would just come over and we just write.
Yeah.
And it is tough because some of our best stuff comes when we're both sitting together, and you can tell we're getting somewhere good when one of us stands up and begins pacing and goes, write this down.
Yeah.
But in general, it's also very interesting and fun. And for a while, we used to just write everything out, you know, and have our meetings that way. But then we eventually just began phoning each other. So now we're on the phone. When things are busy, it's for an hour a day.
Yeah.
And it generally cools down once university heats up, and especially now he's got a full-time job. I'm studying. I'm doing improv. I'm working. So we're both very busy guys now.
Yeah.
But when we have the time, especially coming up to launch, we were meeting for like 2 hours a day. Which is fun because Kim Barriga, who is Alex's girlfriend,
Powerful Kim Barriga.
I'm not sure if he wants me to talk about this, but I'm going to talk. I don't know if either of them want me to. But it's funny because there are moments where me and Alex have talked for like 2 hours, and then he's like, I need to call my girlfriend, and I went, I'm so sorry. You know, which is the tough part with something like that. Yeah. I'm going to get in trouble about that one. But he did say, I talked to Alex before this got started. I went, is there anything I shouldn't talk about? He went, don't think so. So there it is.
You're free. You're in the clear. You're in the clear.
For now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough. It was wild because with our artist Heliotrope, we met him online. Through Alex posted in a forum somewhere, and found this guy. Because at the start, Palm was like, "Oh, I'll just do the art myself," and we have some art of his.
Yeah.
It's
good.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's passable. And it will have been okay.
Yeah.
But now that we know how long it takes, each page takes like 8 hours or so. We would not have been able to do it. It would have been a bad time for everyone.
Yeah. For anyone that doesn't know, I, along with my brother, I designed the shitty logo that is now used for my podcast, and that took me, just doing that took me like 3 hours.
My God.
And it was incredibly stressful.
It's tough, and you get better and you get faster.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But there are just parts where it's long, and so the amount of
you just color in the wrong thing, and you just gotta erase, and it's
the amount of dedication that Heliotrope has for this thing is insane. It's something I'm constantly amazed by. It's something I aspire to bring with me because it's not easy, and that's one of the biggest challenges with making something, no matter what it is people enjoy it, but a lot of people don't understand the work put into it. And when you tell them, oh, this page took 8 hours by our artist, 5 hours by the writers, and we also brought in beta readers to check this section, and we had to design a character, and at the end of the day, people have put in like 40 hours on a single page. And it does come out slow, and people go, well, I want more. And you go, I do too.
That's the huge thing with your comic. So for Wozny's comic, you release once a week. So sometimes depending on, with Patreon and stuff like that, you might release extra stuff or let someone see, let your Patreon subscribers see a week earlier.
On our Patreon, people can see pages early now, which is nice. And stuff like that, and on our other hosts we're a week behind. So we now have, I think we're on page 48 on the main site, page 49 on our Patreon, and page 47 on everything else. So it's all complicated, and I can't keep track of it. I have to write it all down in my calendar.
But you guys release a page once a week. Yeah. And for a lot of comic book readers, they're probably used to comics coming out in issues, right? And I'm not too familiar with how often those issues are released, but those comics are usually 20-30 pages
or so
in length. So what's it like to keep a captivated audience with just a page a week that might only have a few lines of dialogue on it, beautifully crafted scenes, but
it takes place.
the story takes some time to get going.
Well, It's tough, and a lot of it is just like your social media presence.
Yeah.
But it's also being aware of all of the different kinds of readers and being okay that there are readers who aren't going to read every week because that's not how they consume it.
Yeah.
And at the start I wasn't prepared for that, and then I began to understand that.
Yeah.
And it's just realizing that people have their different habits, and there are readers who like one page a week. They want more.
Yeah.
But they enjoy seeing things happen and talking about it, which is great. And there are people who are like, I'm waiting till you print it, which is fine. And and something we'll do, because I want to reach out and have this story in the hands of as many people as possible.
Shout out to when it comes out on HBO.
Yeah,
check it out.
Watch out.
2025.
HBO, please. But it's tough too, because people do ask, oh, I want more, and I'm saying I do too, and our artist does too, and everyone on the team does too. But it's costly in time, and there's a lot of people who can put out 5 pages a week, but that's because it's their full-time job. And so in launching, we did launch our Patreon just less than a month ago. And in launching that, the goal is to get to the point where we can do this full time, because we want to do it. But we also want to eat. And so you have to have a job, and you have to. I'm studying. I'm working. I'm doing all of these other things. So. And that's true of everyone. Yeah,
well, I can definitely relate. Doing this, I can definitely relate to that. Hopefully, I get to the point where people are telling me, I want...
Give me more.
I want more. But, like, my schedule as of right now, hopefully, fingers crossed, is every 2 weeks. But, like, and 2 weeks might seem like a long time for a podcast, especially when you have some people that are every day or every week or every 5 days or something like that. But, like, for me, it's like because I'm completely by myself, like, so I have to find I think the biggest thing for me is finding the right person to bring on, or finding someone that I want to talk to, or someone that relates to a topic that, like, I care about, and that'll be the biggest thing in term, like, I'll get better and faster at doing everything else, like editing and putting things together and then putting it wherever and then pacing back and forth for a bunch of time, wondering if it's good or not. But finding the right people, I think, is probably the thing that's going to take the most amount of time.
It is.
For me. And then a lot of people will be just like, just bring on anyone. We don't care. We just want to hear. I'm praying that people end up saying
you guys will, right? Leave a comment.
I hope that people end up saying that, like, that they want to hear more. And 2 weeks is a long time to wait and viewership can die down. Yeah. Because people, like, and whether they should be, or, like, the content is free, so it doesn't really matter, but people are impatient and they want things,
of course,
right away.
And it's reasonable and it's fair. But once you've started doing it, I take a great deal of pride in what we're doing. You know, and sure, we could rush it. But I know I won't be okay with that. I know my artist, Heliotrope, won't be okay with that. I know Alex. I know no one on the team would be okay with that, because at the end of the day, for the people who are reading every week, they are a gift and they are the fuel to the fire. You know, because to see hundreds of people reading and see people leaving comments on individual pages is the best feeling in the world. And I glow every time I see that number go up. But at the end of the day, I want this to be done, and I want to hold a copy of it and go, this was something I'm proud of, and not something that was perfect, but something that I did all I could at the time to make the best it can be, while still putting it out, because a lot of people then get caught in this loop of, well, I want it to be perfect, I'm never going to do anything, and you gotta move past that and just do it. That's easier said than done sometimes.
That's a big thing with just, like, creating anything, like, whether it's artwork, whether it's anything on the internet, it's the patience that you require from your audience and the patience that you require from yourself. Because like you said, like, you want to release as many pages as possible. You want everybody to be able to see it as soon as possible, but you know that you have to take the time. You have to slow it down and put in the work. And once it's good, it may not be perfect, like you said, but once it reaches that level where you know that I can put my name on this, I can put my stamp of approval on this,
Yeah.
and let it go, then the hope is that you've cultivated an audience that will be appreciative of that and will understand that they need patience and that you need patience as well.
Yeah. And we have a great audience.
Yeah.
Like in general, people, even when people are asking for more,
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I haven't dealt with people being like,
You don't have to deal with the trolls.
"You're the worst." Well, I've had those people, but I've never had someone do the classic thing where they're like, "This comic is bad and you guys suck. I want more."
I'm ready for those.
And-
I'm ready for those comments.
And you go, "Oh, I thought you said it was bad and it sucked." But there are people who ask, and generally it's in a super kind way, and it's why I'm so passionate about trying to get things faster.
Yeah.
Is because these people just enjoy it, and if your fans want something, you do what you can to give it to them. But I also know that our fans want a good comic.
Yeah.
And even if it comes out faster, if the comic stops being what it's supposed to be, people are gonna check out.
Yeah.
That being said, we had this fun moment. The opening scene of the comic is this long fight scene, and there was this moment where I went, "We're still in this scene for another 3 months," and Alex went, "You're right."
Because you don't think about it. It might only be like 10 pages, but like that's 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's 3 months.
So
and then it's gone.
And we have, as writers, have really changed the way we do that stuff. So the latest action scene that's happening right now, we really pushed it, and we're like, do this, and keep going.
Yeah.
And then it's just being aware of those things.
Yeah.
So that's something that's hugely helpful and a lesson that we've learned. And when we do our next project, we're definitely going to be like, okay, our intro, how do we do this in the best way possible? But I'm still happy with it. And the point of doing anything like this at this level is learning.
Yeah.
It's taking these lessons away and going, okay, we're ready for the next thing.
So how long do you want to do like Faction for? Like, are you
Faction?
like, do you guys have an ending in mind, or?
Yeah, so we've outlined everything.
Wow.
And then we've scripted out everything in the first half.
Okay.
We're on our 5th draft of the first half. Second half is outlined, and we're working on it now. It still is figuring itself out in what we want it to be. Because the great thing about releasing at 1 page a week is we're learning on the fly. So we're learning what scenes really resonated with people and what characters are doing and how that's influencing our readers, and we're adjusting our second half to best reflect that, which is exciting. So I would say the comic will probably run for another 2 years or so.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. And that's barring us speeding up.
Yeah.
If we manage to kind of kick things up a gear, based on how we're doing on our advertising and all of our revenue, then it'll be great, and we'll go through things faster. But it will take time.
Do you guys have like another project in mind?
After? Well, Faction started because we were working on this project before called Game Break. Game Break, ladies and gentlemen. But it was set in the same game, and it didn't involve. Well, it involved Emma was a character in it, but she didn't have a name at the time. She was just this character who would play a role later in the plot. I don't want to go too into it. Because what if it happens? But we've really talked about coming back to that, because some of the stuff we did for that we spent a solid 2 years on that comic, and we have at least 1,000 pages of just writing and conversation and character bios and plot outlines, And the thing that made us swap off of it is I was on a trip. Me and Alex met through marching band, and in marching band you go on trips.
Powerful band camp.
Powerful band. And we went to Italy, all of us, for a competition. And I stayed late. Alex went home when the band went home, and I stayed with my mom, and we had a great time in Europe. And then I came back, and me and Alex had a meeting about the comic because we hadn't met in a while, and I went, this thing is too big. I went, we cannot do this thing justice right now.
Yeah.
So then it was like 2 a.m, and we both kind of sat there and went, yep. That's right. And I had said it. I hadn't thought about it. It slipped out. But we both then realized, yep, that's what we need to do.
A question that just came to mind
is
a lot of times people have problems when movies or TV shows that are based on comics change the source material. And a lot of people get upset about that. But how do you, if say for example, years down the road, or maybe even months down the road, who knows? Someone approaches you saying, we want to make a television show about your comic.
Yeah.
But we want to change this, and this. Do you as creators feel comfortable letting them change it, or do you want I would assume that you would want say?
This is a really good hypothetical.
Yeah.
Great on the spot there. So I don't know. Firstly, I think I would say if it was a television group, it's a television group. I'd probably say yes if they're like, we want to make a TV show. Yeah. But I generally, my approach to writing faction has been like a movie, in the sense that I'm trying to follow the same sort of beats and the same sort of pacing, because it's a lot more self-contained. I would say with Game Break, we were approaching it a lot more like a long-form TV show, which is why it became this giant thing. And if we had a giant team, that would also make things go faster. But if they said we needed to change things, it would just depend. I would not be comfortable. I'm always anxious about the television and the movie industry, especially like the big companies, just because part of our motivation with Faction has been to ensure that we're giving a voice and we're writing something that isn't just white dudes in a video game fighting.
That's another huge thing, because your character is a woman.
Yeah, our 2 lead characters are both female.
Yeah, so you as the writers as men have chosen to write about females.
Yeah.
As opposed to just writing about guys that look like you.
Yeah.
What was that decision like, or was that even a decision? Was it something like, we want this to be about women, or was it just these are our characters? It doesn't matter what their gender is.
In terms of just to cut back to movie or thing for a sec here, I think we did have in mind when we wrote these characters that we wanted to do something different, and it's not our place to be spokespeople for it. Yeah. But the amount, the lack of representation in media and in comics is insane. Yeah. And we're getting better at it. But comics, and especially superheroes, contribute so much to the way we view women today. Yeah. We look at movies, and Wonder Woman came out, and it was almost the first of its kind. Yeah. Which is insane.
You have those,
and scary.
Shitty, have you ever seen the Catwoman?
Yeah.
That Halle Berry movie? Just terrible.
And so,
just garbage.
And when we chose to write these characters, first of all, we were looking at some side characters from Game Break, because Game Break's 2 leads were a boy and a girl, and they were both white. Yeah. And then we changed it, so we mixed things around, which was better. But when we were looking at our side characters, we were just talking about Emma and who this character could be, and we're this is a fun story. Yeah. So it didn't cross our minds at the start, and then as we developed and we talked about, okay, what do we do? Who do we place Emma with? There was talk about having, okay, well, if we put a guy in it. But in general, it's something I really wanted to tell this story about these two women fighting against not only the enemy, but the people on their own team.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of parallels in that. The comic, a lot of it is about this tension between Emma and the current leader of the faction.
Yeah.
And he's a guy. And Red is embodies a lot of traits that would be identified as stereotypically masculine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun to see these two female characters go to the core of this sort of team and go, how do we change this and how do we make this better? Because it's not working right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to go super high concept on that stuff, but it there's merit to it, and I just think I see plenty of people who look like me in TV and in movies and in comics. I'm okay.
Yeah.
But there are people who never see that, or if they do, it's so rare and it's not the norm, and that has an impact on people. So I really value as a creator and as someone who has even a small voice, I want to make sure that I'm using that for good, and that's not. And our story isn't about big hot topic issues. It's not about confronting toxic masculinity or things like that. But it is about how those things have an impact on our characters. And it's a part of the story because that's a part of life. It's something we often have. I used to have this talk with a friend of mine, and they were also a writer, and they said, what happens if you just flip the gender of all of your characters?
Yeah.
And I said, and they're like, would anything change? And I went, it shouldn't.
Yeah.
But it would.
Yeah.
And I think completely disregarding some of the problems society has is fine. And it's fun sometimes, but I want to go into it, and we're talking, when me and Alex talk about the future of the world and the society we're in, I want it to be, I think technology is going to help a lot, but I want to also explore what happens to society and how do those issues play out further in the future, because I hope they go away, but I don't know if they will.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to explore that while it's relevant.
So I guess kind of like one of the last things I want to ask you is how do you end a story? Because the example that I'm thinking of in my head is Game of Thrones got a lot of shit this season for the way that they've had to speed up their storytelling as opposed to in seasons prior, where like a lot of the characters and stuff were slow building but satisfying at the same time when things actually did happen, whatever that means. But in them trying to speed up the story, because they only have now a season left, a lot of people think that they've taken shortcuts. And now I think parts of last season were their first time writing completely original material, because George R.R. Martin so, and they've now realized that they have to finish the story somehow, if they can even finish it, which is a huge discussion that Game of Thrones enthusiasts are having. How do you finish a story that has taken years to properly do? And a lot of shows have gotten it right, and some of them have gotten it wrong, and a lot of people don't like certain endings and love other endings. And how do you feel if Faction does have an ending, without you going into spoilers, how do you end a story properly?
So I think I've been largely influenced by I read things like other comics that I've read. I really enjoyed the Scott Pilgrim series by Brian Lee O'Malley. And in terms of webcomics, one big one that's I think hugely relevant to this question is Homestuck, which is this gigantic thing. I think it's comparable to Game of Thrones in the sense that there's all of these characters who all have their own arcs, and Homestuck tried to, well, it wrapped up after running for like 12 years, and people were, not everyone, a lot of people were unhappy with it. And there's two parts to it. First of all, I think, and I'm no expert, I'm gonna figure it out, and for all you know, I'm gonna finish the ending to Faction, and I'm gonna think it's great, and everyone's gonna go, "You ruined this," which hopefully doesn't happen. I don't think it will. The major things for me are acknowledging the medium you're in and how that influences your writing and your pacing. Yeah. So the way you pace a movie is very different than the way you pace a TV show, is very different than the way you pace a book. Yeah. And I think with something like Game of Thrones, the pacing of Game of Thrones in the book has always been building and slow and laborious, and all of these players are involved, and so it's tough to get a conclusion to, and it's not something where you can just turn the series into high gear and resolve everything. It's about these people, and you want to give endings to most of them. The other thing is making sure that you're flexible with your ending, because ultimately the ending is about the writer being satisfied with the product, but even more so it's about the reader being satisfied with the product. And I think people who have their endings in mind from the very start, and they know exactly what's going to happen. At a large scale, if you're like, here's the ending, good, you should have that. But then with some of the smaller things relating to characters, it's good to sometimes leave that open, because I feel like in the case of something like Homestuck and a lot of online content, people have this ending in mind, and then they don't change it, and the comic changes because it's influenced by the readers, but you keep your ending, and you're like, I've had this whole time, and it's being aware that there's an ending that's right for your story, and there's an ending that's right for your readers, and it's finding a way to combine the two, because you go, what do my readers want and care about in this story? You know, so a classic example is like, if you have a side character who you just had because he's a plot device, but your community suddenly loves him, you have to be aware that people are going to expect a conclusion for him, you know, and that's true of anyone. So it's just having that read on your readers, which is, once again, I'm glad I'm in improv, because I've gotten good at reading my audience. And it's harder when they're on the other side of the country leaving you a comment saying, this shit's bad, but you can figure it out. So that's my big thing on endings. Not that I know that much. I'm not a professional yet. I'm making money, little bits.
Anything
counts. You know what? If I can go to A&W and get the $3.50 team burger, please pay us, A&W. Then it was worth it.
Oh, I would love to see just you know that guy from the A&W ads? Yeah. The little bit of a, he's got a little bit of a tub. Yeah. You know, he's a good Canadian. Oh yeah. He is a good Canadian. Great Canadian. Yeah. Helps to sell burgers.
He's the average working man.
But I'd love to see you guys do a commercial with him. Like just a hot, like a hot wings style.
We'll just do a show.
A&W burger.
We'll bring him in. We'll bring him in for an improv show. I'll try and get his agent. He must be good. Something.
He can't just be a random worker that they found.
I bet
he has to be some. He's just balling right now with that A&W money.
I know. A&W sweet root beer gold.
Okay, so the last thing, any advice that you would give to internet creators or aspiring improvisers? Any piece of advice that you want to impart on the world This is the last thing you were to
this
ever
is my
say
last-
to
this-
humanity.
I'm gonna walk out
What
of
would you
this
say?
room, and there's gonna be like a SWAT team, and it's gonna be the end for me. No, I would, for improvisers,
Yeah.
I'd say get out there and do it. I
Mhm.
took a year, because I was nervous about it,
Yeah.
and I regret that.
Yeah.
I look back and I go, why didn't I start earlier? It's not about making a commitment, saying I'm gonna do improv. Come to one practice or
Yeah.
one jam. Here at the university, we have a jam every week.
Mhm.
A lot of companies in the city, including one I'm with, Outtake, we do jams before our shows, and there's classes. So however you feel comfortable trying it, try it. At the very least, come to a show.
Yeah.
And it's something where you just gotta give it a go, and it's scary and it's terrible at the start, and you're like, oh god, but it's also magical, and it feels like you've done something amazing, and once you have that bug, it's in. Once you've started, just my general thing I tell every improviser is this idea of the best improviser makes the others look good, which I mentioned earlier, but it's also just listen. Just listen to your other people, and good things will come. Don't be afraid to take a deep breath, and don't try and be funny 24/7. In terms of webcomics, and internet media in general, you got to do it. It's something where I with Game Break, we worked on it for so long, and we thought about how good it could be, but we never did it. And it's so easy to fall into this trap of how good can it be? And in reality, it won't be that, especially if it's your first time. And it's liberating to go, this won't be as good as I want it to be. This will not be my masterpiece on my first try. It's going to be something I'm proud of. It's going to be something that is great in all of these ways. It's also going to be a learning experience. And it's something... Our team generally, and in life in general, I'm someone who likes to hang back and wait and make sure everything's prepared. But with this, I really took the helm in saying, we gotta just put it out. And so we said deadline, we missed it. And then we said another deadline, and I said, if it doesn't come out at this time, I'm done. And not in a mean way, but just in a way of, I don't think we'll ever get it out then. So we did it. And we all agreed to that. It wasn't just me holding the comic hostage. It was all of us saying, we're done with the comic if we can't get it out by this time. And we did it because we had to. And the lessons we've learned by actually doing it are way better than anything we would have learned before we had. And it's nice, especially with something like a comic. But with any form of media, everything you do just helps the rest. And there's this thing of like, well, I don't want to be embarrassed by my old work. You're going to be embarrassed no matter what. Like, I know nobody who looks back at something 3 years ago and goes,
oh, I know I'm going to feel that with this. 100%.
Until you're a professional, and you've been doing it for 40 years. Your early stuff is going to be weird in some ways. And that's great. And that's what it should be. So... It's easy to get in your head and be like, I want to put my best foot forward. But a lot of people, there are so many people who are sitting at home and haven't put out anything, who are still just thinking about how to put that best foot. Rather than just jumping and giving it a go. Put in the time, plan it. Don't do it spur of the moment, but also... put that time limit on yourself and say, here's when we're doing it, because we can work on it all we want, but we're not professionals, we're not the best, and we're gonna learn things as we go. I don't know, and I just think it's hard. It's not an easy thing to do, but I'm so lucky because once we launched this comic, I got to begin to meet people in the community who are also making comics, and a lot of them are small and just like ours, they're figuring their way out. But the amount of admiration I have for people who there's this one creator who has been putting stuff out for like a couple of years, and they have something like 100 people following them, which is good. But for 4 years, it's nothing stellar or outstanding. But the fact that they're doing that and they're getting better is admirable. And I as a creator, I have nothing but respect for someone who's willing to put themselves out there, whether it be through a comic, through a YouTube channel, through a podcast, or whatever it is, you know. So do it, and be prepared for it not to be perfect at the start, and you'll be a-okay.
Powerful.
I'm a
Powerful
wise guy.
Powerful words. Okay, Wozny, you can shout your stuff out now. Anything that you guys like, if you want to get in touch with Wozny, he'll give you some ways that you guys can get in touch with him here.
So if you want to read my comic, check it out at factioncomic.com. That's faction, FACTION, comic, COMIC. If you couldn't spell comic, that's okay. Come read my comic. If you want to, you can check us out on Facebook and Twitter. It's at Faction Comic. Also, if you want to check out our Patreon and support my team and the work we do, you can find us there at patreon.com/factioncomic. Weird. It's like we use that one a lot. If you want to do improv, look up improv in whatever city you live in. If you're living here in Ottawa, check out MI6 Improv, which is the University of Ottawa's campus group. Anyone can join. If you look us up on Facebook, it's MI-6, the number 6, the digit 6. And come out and jam with us. You can also see me perform with North of Normal at Bridget's Well. We do that on the first or second Thursday of every month. And that's a great old time. And I also am performing with Outtake Improv. We're at Live on Elgin on the second Sunday of every month. That's the group that does genre-based stuff. If you want to follow me personally on Twitter and have any questions about the comic or about doing improv and how you should get started, follow me at Alexander Wozny. Tweet at me, and we'll have a lovely conversation. I am sure.
Powerful plugs. This has been great. I've had a great time. It's been an hour and 20 minutes.
Holy heck.
Has it felt that long? Or
No. It's good to just have a conversation. Yeah. Thanks for letting me rant and rave about
Thanks for
the
coming
things
on,
I love.
man. I loved it. I loved it. Okay. Thanks, everybody. See you later. Bye.
There it is.